As Nigeria edges closer to 2027 elections, early campaigns are already heating up the political space, despite clear provisions of the Electoral Act. INEC Chairman Mahmood Yakubu has warned that such activities not only breach the law, but also undermine campaign finance monitoring, even as the Commission pushes for stronger legal powers to sanction offenders. The police and ex-INEC boss Attahiru Jega has joined the call for reform, while parties straight blame over who is truly guilty of jumping the gun. Tonight, we unpack the warnings, the politics, and what premature campaigns mean for governance and Nigeria's democracy. To discuss this, I'm joined by Cynthia Mbamalu. She's the Director of Programs, Yiaga Africa. Thank you for your time.
Evening.
Good evening. Maybe I should just ask your opinion on this early campaigns first, before we get into the crux. I mean, what do you make of it? What does this reflect of Nigeria and Nigerians?
Well, I think we'll begin with what does this reflect of our political class, because it's not every one of us who are indulging in campaigns in breach of the law. I think it just shows the high level of impunity amongst our political leaders, especially our politicians, and perhaps more like political criminality and rascality at this point, because when you're aware of a particular law prohibiting a particular action, but because you understand that there may be certain gaps, yet you indulge in those characters, it already means that you do not respect the law and you do not respect constituted authorities, because the law is clear on when campaigns should commence. But we've seen a lot of parties, we've seen campaigns happening, billboards, and this is happening when there is a law prohibiting it. And so if you tell me what does this make of us, it just shows us that we have enabled a culture of impunity for so long that people think they can act because they believe that they are either above the law or that no one will hold them accountable. That is not good for our democracy. Democracies do not function outside the law. Democracies succeed and function within the law. And I think it's important our politicians understand that what the campaigns we're seeing, the billboards we're seeing, it's not just mischievous. For me, it's a huge offense, and it's an abuse of our law. It just means that we do not respect our laws and we don't respect even the institutions within our democracy.
Could this also mean that or reflect a yearn for maybe a change? I mean, for some Nigerians, they will tell you that this seems to be a different climb. I mean, for this current administration, for instance, some have started having conversations as to when the next election, from the second year, would happen, you know. And then I mean, this is just a fresh administration, and people are already talking about the next election. Could this mean something deeper? Maybe, I don't know, maybe, you know, a discontent with the current norm, or yearn for a change, or discomfort, basically.
So now, I think we should separate this issue. There's an issue of people are dissatisfied, or there's a lot of discontentment among citizens, and there's a call for something different. There is one that is separate. Now, it is another issue of actively or proactively campaigning for one individual or one party or one class of people. So campaigns are different. They're from agitations and demand for a system that works. But I think most times our politicians forget that there is that responsibility of governance, which is not the same as election. So we are always in an elections mode, which is why we do not have leadership that focuses on delivering governance that meets the needs of the people. Rather, what we have is people win elections, and after they've won elections, the next conversation is on the next elections. And so I think for this conversation, yes, there is a lot of agitation and people feel discontented with things happening. There are grievances across board. However, in a system like this is a period for demand for greater accountability. And in the demand for greater accountability, you can begin to showcase the voices speaking for the people, so that when the time for campaigns come, we know that these are the people that stood with us when we needed voices to speak for Nigerians. So we forget that governance, demand for accountability, and democracy is not limited to elections. It's almost like we focus every attention on election, which is why Nigeria is still where it is, which is how our democracy is still not developed and moving forward. We're still stuck. Not because we don't know the right things to do, but because we forget that the democracy itself does not begin and end at elections. Election is just a means. It's not the end itself. The actual demand for governance, for quality leadership, is what keeps democracy sustained. And so if we focus all our energies on elections, what happens is we miss opportunities to demand for things to be done. We miss the opportunities to identify the right people who have the right intentions for our system. And so when elections come, we think we are lost because we don't know who to vote for, because all we've been doing is campaigning and fighting one candidate or the other. So honestly, I do believe that Nigerians, we need to change our approach to how we engage democracy generally.
Okay.
And secondly, our political leaders, they understand this and they just play this game to get us distracted rather than focus on the issue.
I mean, do you think that for early campaigns there should be strong penalty, because Section 94, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act of 2022 prohibits campaigns earlier than 150 days before polling, but no penalty exists for early campaigns, only fines for campaigning too close to election day. So do you think for compliance sake there should be a policy direction to this? 30 seconds.
Yes, please. I do believe that we need to review this in the ongoing reform process to provide sanctions for this, just so that the institution, INEC for instance, and even the police would have a law to use in carrying out its action. But this doesn't mean that these institutions can still not act to call these political parties to order. I still believe that the law as it is, if the Electoral Commission uses the law, it can hold these politicians or those campaigning accountable in this period. But we need to amend sections 94 in particular to provide sanctions for a breach of that particular law. And I hope the politicians in National Assembly would understand the importance of this. Early campaigns is just showing us how we waste money on campaigns rather than use it to develop our nation and our respective communities.
Now let's quickly take a look at some of the elections that we have had, the off-cycle, the by-elections, the local government elections. I'm going to ask you this, Cynthia. I mean, Yiaga has always been a part of Nigeria's electoral process, boots on ground and all of that, firsthand. Looking at these elections that we've had ahead of 2027, are there takeaways? Are we improving? I mean, can we confidently say that we are ready as a country for the general elections in 2027?
No, we're not ready. So let me just respond. We are not ready for the elections. Both citizens, because we the people also need to be ready. The political class possibly are, because they've been campaigning and doing all the politicking they can. Nigerians, I don't think we are fully ready for the next elections. And why do I say that? We had by-elections that happened. How many of us actually followed the by-elections? We still had major challenges of logistics. We still had issues of non-compliance with guidelines or lack of uniformity in the application of the rules across different states. We had by-elections in about 12 states. And so I would use the by-elections as an example, because local elections are conducted by the CX. And I do believe that from that elections, there are key demands we need to start to make now as a people, because systems are built by people. We build systems, we make it to work. And the first is the demand for electoral reform. And one of those demands should be the compulsory transmission of, or rather compulsory electronic transmission of results. We need to tighten our results management system to ensure transparency and that votes are truly counting. So that demand is key. We want that compulsory electronic transmission to work together with the manual process. The second is the demand for the independence of the Electoral Commission. There's an ongoing demand for the amendment of the Constitution to review the powers of appointment, to remove it from the president, so that we can guarantee some level of sanity when it comes to the appointment. But in the interim, before that amendment is done, the INEC chair would be appointed soon. A new INEC chair rather will be appointed soon, and other commissioners. Can we start to make that demand on the kinds of people and the characters we need and the capacities we need for individuals that would be considered for that position? Now, beyond that are the issues around the registration of voters. There's an ongoing CVR, continuous voter registration now. You get some complaints at some state levels where there are complaints around the process being cumbersome and some issues not being addressed. And we had that in the CVR that happened in Anambra. We had CVR in Anambra that was done for a short period of time before the governorship elections. Those issues around overcrowding of centers and some machines not working, we cannot afford to have that, because as we get citizens to participate and register, the process must be seamless. And so I think that is an opportunity to engage. And perhaps the other conversation is on this mandatory use of PVC. That is an electoral reform issue. Can we also join voices to say we do not need PVCs as a prerequisite? If voters register and their information is on the beavers, any other form of identification should be used, so that you don't also restrict people who, because they registered, somehow they couldn't get their PVCs and then they are denied the right to vote on elections day. So these are important issues that I do believe we can engage on, because Nigerians, we have to plan the way the politicians are planning. We need to plan on how to engage this system, engage the next elections, and come out in our numbers. But we need electoral reforms, honestly, to strengthen specific provisions of our laws.
Thank you so much, Cynthia Mbamalu. She's the Director of Programs, Yiaga Africa. Once again, it's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. Thank you.